The Swachh Bharat mission has really touched the hearts of Indians. One key part of the mission is to eradicate open-air defecation in rural as well as urban communities by encouraging people to build toilets. Giving subsidy is a key strategy to achieve this. However, subsidy cannot be 100% and building toilets will involve individual spending. But given the subsidy, everyone will spend, won't they? Maybe, but maybe not. Firstly, an individual can prevent diseases caused by open-air defecation only if the entire community together stops the practice. Therefore, every individual would think, why should he invest? Since it will not help unless everyone else does too. And secondly, if open-air defecation is a fine social norm, it's just okay to go out in the open as long as everyone else is, isn't it? So, can subsidy alone increase sanitation coverage and eradicate open-air defecation? Clearly, there is a chance of reaching a stalemate. But if the communities coordinate, will they not take a decision to use the subsidy together? The problem is that generally communities are unable to coordinate. Social scientists from Yale and Maryland universities, Raymond Gutera, James Levinson and Ahmed Mushfiq Mubarak conducted a large-scale social experiment on policy alternatives to increase sanitation in Bangladesh. The cluster randomized study covered 380 rural communities in 107 villages, consisting of 18,254 households. The scientists randomized these communities to different marketing treatments. The first treatment involved community motivation and health information campaigns. The second one involved motivation and health information combined with subsidies for the purchase of hygienic latrines. Third involved a supply-side market access, linking villagers with suppliers. And finally, the fourth involved no intervention at all. The study established that the combination of community motivation and information campaign with subsidy gives the best result. But can this study be used in India given the diversity? Maybe, maybe not. Should we just roll out a policy and see how it goes? Or do we have to predict with gut feel and intuition? Or is there a scientific way? Enter behavioral science, a science that helps us understand the emotional, social, cognitive and psychological factors that influence the consumer's decisions. Moribus miniaturized this large-scale experiment into a coordination game to first test in a laboratory setting. The game involves groups of uncoordinated pairs of people. Each individual can make one of two choices, but the incentive of the choice depends upon what the other person in the pair has chosen. Let's say there are two individuals P and Q. If P chooses A and Q also chooses A, they both gain 500 rupees. If P chooses A but Q chooses B, A loses 200 rupees and B gains 300 rupees. Similarly, if P chooses B and Q chooses A gains 300 rupees but B loses 200 rupees. Finally, if both of them choose B, both of them gain 100 rupees. Now from P's perspective, Q is the community in a sanitation program and so are the incentives. That is, if both chooses to go for sanitation, P gains. If the community does not do sanitation and P does, he loses. If the community does, but he does not, the community loses. And finally, if both do not, they all save, so marginally gain. 48 pairs in 4 batches played this game. In the first treatment, no coordination was allowed between the pairs. In this treatment, most individuals chose B. That is, they do not choose going for sanitation. In the second treatment, they were counseled that most people would probably choose A. The result in this treatment was dramatically different. Most people chose A, that is, going for sanitation. This proves in a small, cheap setting that in this community, providing coordination through an intervention changes people's decision dramatically. This insight in one community can now be used to devise live experiments in it, but at a lower cost. Thus, a large number of such experiments can be done across India. So, are trial and error, gut feel or intuition the only ways to predict people's behavior? Or do we have a scientific way? That's the value of behavioral science. It gives us a framework to think and methods of experimental validation of hypotheses, all based on a highly developed science.